Hi there, it's Jenna from scribblinggrace.com. Today I'm doing a Bible journaling with me video. I'm just going to be painting a dark background and some pretty leaves in what I have deemed the baby Bible. This is the Bible I'm working in specifically for my son Clark. And so this is just a page that I had the time to do, and I thought I would film it and show you guys how I did it too. So I started off by just painting a dark background. This is my Apple Barrel acrylic paints. This Bible I'm only using acrylic paints for the backgrounds. So I use cheapo Apple Barrels from Walmart. This is the color called Pavement. It's basically just like a really dark gray with kind of blue undertones, but you could also use black or black mixed with a tiny bit of white to create the same type of color. I just find this color so pretty. So I just did a coat and then covered it back up with another coat where I could still see some of the white spots. The great thing about acrylic paints is that they don't bleed through the Bible page, so you don't have to worry about that. You can just kind of add as much paint as you need to get what you want. So now I'm adding some more colors to my paper plate here that I use as a palette. And so I'm using two green colors and an off-white called Antique White. The green colors are called Palm Leaf and Marsh Green. And I'll pick the links to all of the supplies that I'm using, as well as the names of all these paints and everything in the blog post that goes along with this video. And that will be at scribblinggrace.com/acrylicleaves. And if you head on over there, you'll have everything that you need to create a page just like this, as well as other helpful tutorials on lettering and things like that. So I am mixing my paints here. So I'm mixing my lighter palm green with a little bit of that antique white. You could also just use normal white as well. To create three different shades. So one has more white and one has less white, and then I have the original palm leaf color. And I'm really just going to use those two middle colors, the light palm and the middle palm. And so I'm using that middle color now. I just like to lighten up the paint colors if I'm using a dark background, because it helps you to avoid having to do a ton of different colors to make it super opaque. Adding that white just makes it a little bit more opaque than the original color. And it also just really pops off of that dark background when the color is lighter too. So now I'm just using again that middle green color from the palm color that I blended, and starting off by doing the same leaf shape around my page. So I'm going to do groups of 5s and 3s of these big leaves here. So you can see I'm just using the tip of my paintbrush to draw a stem, and then I just apply pressure and release the pressure to a tip, and then do that again on the other side to create that standard leaf shape. And if it's not perfect, I just go back over it to create the shape that I want. So if the pressure stuff is totally confusing to you, just use that tip of your paintbrush to make the shape that you want. I do have a watercolor leaves tutorial where I talk all about the pressure, and this is the same exact concept as far as pressure. It's just using acrylics. But you can do the same type of thing with watercolors as well. One tip I have for painting leaves is to change up the direction or the angle just slightly from how they're pointing. So don't make all of them point in the exact same direction. Maybe make one point a little bit more upward or a little bit more downward. I just find that helps to make it look a little bit more natural. Another thing to note, though I was talking about opacity and adding the white to make it more opaque, which is basically where it's less see-through, less transparent. I'm using really cheap Apple Barrel paints, so the colors are still pretty transparent. If you're using a more high quality paint, colors are usually more opaque. So I did have to go back over my leaves just a little bit to make them stand out a little bit more and not blend in so much to the background, make them a little more opaque. But I also didn't worry too much about them being totally perfectly, like there's still some spots where you can see the background a little bit through it, where they're a little bit more transparent. So I'm using that lightest tone from the palm, the 3 tones that I mixed previously, to just add a little bit of highlight on the leaves. I find that this just kind of adds a little something extra. It may not make it look super duper realistic. If you wanted to, you could make this more like stems from the leaves if you wanted, but I just like to add a little highlight, just kind of envisioning that the sun is kind of gleaming off of the leaves. And so now I'm going to go ahead and move to my next type of leaf. I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to blend my marsh green now with that same white color to create the 3 tones. And I'm going to use those 2 middle tones that I just blended to create my leaf. So I'm going to start with my darker middle tone from the marsh green. So it's basically just marsh green with a little bit of white. And I'm used the very tip of my paintbrush to draw the stem, and now I'm going to create these really long stringy leaves here. So you can see I didn't get the perfect shape first, so I just go back over it. And this is a little bit simpler of a leaf shape to make because you're just doing 1 stroke here. Just apply a little pressure up to get the point at the base of the stem. Then you apply pressure with the paintbrush to create a wider part of the leaf, and then you release that pressure to bring it back up to a point. You can see, again, I'm varying the direction just slightly from where my leaves are pointing, and it just makes it look so natural and so pretty. And I'm going to continue painting a couple more of these. That one you can see the stem got a little bit thicker than I wanted, but that's okay. Again, we're not trying to create perfection. We're just Bible journaling. So we're just trying to worship with the Lord, and yeah, so this is a good time to talk about the verse I'm working on, which is Psalm 116, verse 1 and 2, which says, I love the Lord because he has heard my voice and my pleas for mercy, because he inclined his ear to me. Therefore, I will call on him as long as I live. So I just love this verse. I'm working my way through Psalms in this Bible, so I do about 2 pages a month. So I've been working in this Bible for almost 2 years, and I'm nearing the end of Psalms, but still just working my way through Psalms slowly but surely. I'm going to paint a few more on the other side of the page to incorporate that other tiny margin to the rest, so it looks like it's one big full page spread. And then I'm going to take that light tone of the marsh green. So remember, I mixed two tones from it, a medium green with just a tiny bit of white, and then an even lighter tone with more white and less marsh green. So I'm going to take that and add that same highlight just like I did with the palm green colored leaves. And at this point, I was looking at it and I was thinking I was going to add a ton of leaves all over this page, but then I was really liking having that white space in the middle, and I thought it looked just really striking. So I decided that I was going to keep this a little bit simpler and do less leaves than I originally planned. And I'm going to go ahead and just add in a few more super light leaves and then call that that. And this time I'm going to mix both my marsh green and my palm green together with a bunch of that white. And that way I create a whole new green color, but it's still with the same tones, and it makes a really pretty color. So I'm going to do the same type of shape as I did with my first palm green leaves, and this time I'm just making them smaller. So I actually did switch the paintbrush that I'm using here. So originally I was using I believe it was a size 10 round paintbrush, which is kind of like a medium small size paintbrush, and then I switched over to a smaller paintbrush size, like I believe it was a size 8. It might have even been a 6, but that'll just help me to create the smaller leaves that I wanted, just by changing up the brush size. And then this time I used the straight up off-white color that I had to add the highlight. So all my leaves have the same type of look to them. They all have that same little highlight in them, and it just looks so pretty and polished, I thought. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to dry this page off, and I like to use my craft heat gun, which dries the page really fast, but you could also let it air dry or use a hair dryer. And I'll add my lettering. Couple things that I do want to note as well. I'm using my ESV Interleaved Journaling Bible, which has the full blank page. If you don't have a full blank page like mine, you could absolutely do this smaller or just do parts of the leaves in a margin. I think it would look really pretty. I might try that myself and put that picture in the blog post. But you also could make a tip-in. My latest blog post, last week's blog post, was on creating tip-ins with Tomo River paper, which is basically the same exact paper that's used in your journaling Bibles. And so you could totally make a tip-in using just computer paper, or I would highly recommend using this Tomo River paper. It's a lot of fun. And basically you just paint it on a separate sheet of paper and tape it or glue it into your Bible, so that way you don't have to worry about covering up any of the text. But I do also highly recommend this ESV Interleaved Journaling Bible. I just love it so much. So here I just used I believe it was General's graphite pen, charcoal pen. I'll find the name and put it in the blog post, scribblinggrace.com/acrylic leaves. But I used that little pencil to guide where I was going to put my lettering. It's basically like a white pencil that erases and everything. And now I'm using my Uniposca paint pen to add my lettering. I'm doing faux calligraphy here. So I'm basically just creating cursive, and then I'm going to thicken up the downstrokes, which is when every time my pen is going downward, I'm going to thicken that section of my lettering up. And I have tutorials on, or a more in-depth tutorial on faux calligraphy, which is great, and it has a free printable as well. So again, it'll all be in the blog post, so be sure to check that out. I really love using this paint pen, especially on top of other acrylic paints, because it's so opaque and it's just easy to use. It's beautiful and it's so much fun. But if you don't have a paint pen, you could also probably use a gel pen as well. So there are other options, but I do highly love, very much love this paint pen here. And it doesn't bleed through if it's on top of the acrylic paint. That's a great thing about acrylic paints, is they act as a page prep. So again, you can paint them directly on your page. They won't bleed through, but it will stop other things like stamps, inks, paint pens that normally would bleed through from bleeding. So I'll show you the backside in just a little bit. But right now I'm just writing out my prayer really quickly. In this Bible, I always write out a prayer over my son. That goes along with the verse that I'm working on, or the page that I'm working on, and I always write the date as well. And all right, here it is. I really love this page. It's might be one of my new favorites in this Bible. Pretty simply done and pretty quickly done as well. So here's the other page, and then here's the back side. You can see that other page wasn't ruined at all, and the back side completely fine. Beauty of acrylics. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Be sure to check out that blog post at scribblinggrace.com/acrylic leaves to find all the supplies that I use and all the helpful tutorials, all the stuff you need will be in that blog post. All right, much love and many blessings. Bye.